Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Capricorn for April 2016. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, where you can see more about my blog, which I'm always adding new posts all the time on the topics of astrology and other ones. And you can sign up for my free email newsletter and see more about my Creating Successful Online Business course, which is enrolling now. So what's going on in April? Well, we're leaving this very astrologically busy time of February and March. Specifically, March was very, very busy. If you haven't listened to that report, you definitely want to go back because there will be long-term implications from the things that happened in March, and you want to have a handle on what happened and how it may affect you. So very busy in March, and February and March were a window, or included this window to push things forward. And there were some caveats to that, which I went into details in the February and March reports. But once we start to get into April, we have similar busyness. We've got eclipse-related news still coming in, stories unfolding from information that already came. We have personal planets in Aries, which give that zest, and that desire to take action on something, to do something, to be physical, to be active. But then at the same time, instead of having stars that are conducive to using that energy for what it's intended, which is to move forward or throw oneself headlong into the unknown, which Aries is wonderful at, we've got Mars retrograde and we've got Mercury retrograde. So both at the same time means, I don't want to say double trouble because that would sound negative, but it's definitely double implications and double things to watch. So if you haven't listened to my Mars retrograde video, I'm a little bit later than I wanted to be in posting that, but it is up now. Also, there's a corresponding Mars retrograde blog on my website. I highly recommend you get very familiar with all of the details because I can't do that transit justice and then also deliver all the information about April for you. So check that video out, check the blog out on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Also, check out the video for Mercury retrograde because, again, I'll touch on certain things, but I can't do justice to the energy of the time and then also deliver everything else. So you need to see those two supplemental videos. Some dates that are relevant. April 17th is when Mars officially goes retrograde. The shadow period started February 18th. So technically all of February and March and the early part of April were covered in Mars retrograde. But it didn't start to get very strong until later, like towards the end of March, which is why I advised if you have to push something forward, if you have to launch something, do something new for the first time, do it in February and March because you don't want to have the imprint of retrograde on your new venture. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do anything when Mars is in retrograde, which is from April 17th through June 29th. And then that shadow period lasts until August 21st. It just means that you shouldn't launch new things, something brand new. It's your new website. It's your new story about yourself, your new life, your new book, your new relationship, whatever it is. You don't want to launch it when Mars is in retrograde, if you can at all get around it. So you can carry on with things that you've already put into motion and work on them and improve them and continue upgrading them. But you don't want your official launch to be then. Mercury retrograde shadow period starts April 2nd. Mercury retrograde starts April 28th. So all of the month of April is covered in Mercury retrograde, and that is until May 21st that Mercury is retrograde. And then that shadow period goes into June. So you can see why I was encouraging you to launch things beforehand. But when Mercury goes backwards, communication mishaps occur, transportation bobbles occur, things that were not dealt with, that were swept under the rug, come back up to be dealt with, all in the topics of transportation, information, communication, the devices and vehicles that we use for those things. Then add Mars into the mix. Mars rules metal, so Mars has some rulership with all of those things I just listed, plus other machinery, including scissors, including barbers. So this isn't the time to cut 12 inches off of your hair or do anything drastic to your appearance. This isn't the time for elective surgery unless it's really necessary, which it wouldn't be elective then, so definitely cosmetic surgery, things like that. You want to avoid that when Mars is retrograde. You want to avoid that when Mercury is retrograde. So this isn't your month to do that if you're thinking of that or your time period at all. It's very interesting because these planets in Aries are going to make you want to do something. I referred to this earlier. But as Mars is going backwards, it's like you can't do anything. You can't do the things that you want to do, at least, or as much that you want to do them, you know? So the keynote that goes with Mars retrograde is frustration and often anger. For people who are already angry, and they are known for that, this could bring up more anger. For people who aren't usually angry, they might also get angry. So you don't want to stir the pot at all. People are going to be on the edge. But lying within this kind of cesspool of unresolved anger and unfinished business is this beautiful potential for comfortable productivity. So if you would imagine, I'm offering you this idea to kind of to understand the energy of the month better. And you can see more about this if you sign up for my free email newsletter. I do a write-up for each month ahead, and I highlighted some of these details here. So if you imagine that you're on a beach, maybe one like you see behind me, this beautiful tree-lined beach, or maybe it's completely sand and it's very relaxing and maybe it's very warm. You have a drink with an umbrella in it. Maybe it's a virgin drink, maybe not. And you are relaxed and you're happy. Then you realize you have some things that you have to do. Your mind starts saying, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, and interrupts the moment. So instead of going crazy with all the things that you should do, you remember hearing an astrologer say that this is a really good time to do things only that you really have to do and to even reconsider those things you thought you had to do. And then narrow your list down and do those things. And as you do those things, if issues come up, you deal with them internally through meditation or through exercise, through deep inner work, and you go about being comfortably productive and being happy and free of anxiety. Doesn't that sound much better than walking around angry and pissed off and trying to push things forward that aren't intended to be pushed forward at that time? So these are the two options that you have for this time. If you are just going to push and drive and force and not relax and release, then it's going to be more frustrating for you. But if you use this chance for alchemy, the comfortable productivity comes in. It would be a fantastic time to plan vacations where you can help yourself to not feel like you need to do so much. I'm going to be going away for a month during Mars retrograde. I planned it that way purposely. And I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm pushing everything beforehand. I'm going to follow through with my commitments, and that's what I recommend. You still do things. You do your business. You do what has to be done. But that's not the time to just go crazy and try to do a bunch of extra stuff. This is a time to get smarter with your work and not work harder. I remember many years ago when I used to work 80 hours a week minimum. And I don't do that anymore, but I'm more productive than I was because I've used these transits to work smarter. And I'm going to use this transit to even get to a deeper level of that. And maybe you will too. So think about all of this extra work that you do, like really do during this retrograde time, an evaluation of your energy and how you use it and how it's working for you. And then make shifts accordingly, where you can do this much work for that much output instead of this much output for this much to show from it. And that, getting to that point, a lot of it sometimes will involve inner work, which is fantastic for Mars retrograde. So one of the best days of the year, one of the most important days of the year, is going to occur April 7th. And this is the new moon in Aries. The reason why this is so exciting to me is because I love manifesting. I think it's super fun. I love when people sit in the power that is within them to co-create in their lives actively, consciously. And I love assisting with days that the universe is receptive to your desires. One of those wonderful days is your birthday. Another one of those wonderful days is April 7th, which is the new moon in Aries. It's not the same date every year. It's whatever the new moon in Aries is. The astrological new year starts when the sun gets into Aries, which is March 20th or 21st. The new moon that occurs after that occurs is the new moon in Aries. And it is the best time for seed planting ever, besides your birthday. So the universe is especially receptive to heartily grow seeds that you plant at this time. So I highly recommend that you make a vision board. If you're not familiar with vision boards, look them up. They are these wonderful tools. You can do them. Someone posted and told me about this maybe last year, that they understand you can do vision boards online. There's apps and things that you can do vision boards online. I've never done that myself. The way I do them is get cardboard, I cut out pictures, essences that carry the energy of what I want to bring in the next year. And then you tape them all down and you really feel them as if they're coming true, and you leave them someplace where your subconscious mind can pick up on them, where you're seeing them but you're not really noticing them, but they're going into your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is a very loyal servant, kind of like a dog, except if you have dogs, you know that very often they're not exactly obedient unless you happen to be a dog trainer and you're really good at that. But in general, the mind is much more obedient than even a dog. So if you tell it you want certain things, then it does more of that. So if you keep asking a question, why don't I have more money? Why don't I have more money? Then your subconscious mind is like, oh, you want to be asking that question. Okay, we'll keep giving you circumstances that make you ask that question, right? That's good, right? It's literal. And that's the same for positive things. So if you surround yourself with the things that you want to create, a vision board's an amazing way to do this, then it helps to impress upon your subconscious mind what it can help you co-create in your life. It's very magical. April 7th. Okay. You also get new moon wishes at that time, which is very exciting. You get 10 new moon wishes, and the more you base them on Aries related things like throwing yourself headlong into projects, so like pioneering things, trailblazing things, things about independence, inspiring other people, your vitality, your physical body, things like that, those wishes all go very well at this time. For Capricorns, there is a huge gathering of energy in the third house. And this is true for early, middle, and late degree placements. The third house has to do with everything ruled by Mercury, which I talked about Mercury before. Mercury rules transportation, information, sharing of such things, the devices for those things, mobility, your cars, vehicles, boats, bikes, planes, etc. It also rules siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles, certain of your relationships. And it rules how you communicate as well. And also, this is one of the houses of writing, like writing blogs or writing for work or editing, things like that. So there's this strong energy here for Capricorn. But at the same time, Mercury is going to be retrograde and Mars is going to be retrograde. So it's like it's really putting in your face what isn't quite perfect about your mobility situation, your car, your devices, your communication patterns. And here, everything is going to come up so that you can make improvements so that all of that can be better. If you absolutely have to buy a vehicle or a device in that period of time, I don't recommend it if you can avoid it. But if you have to, possibly you can get a temporary situation, and then get the one that you really want to have when the stars are better. Or you have to get the insurance policies and look at the fine print and, get the extended warranties and all of that stuff. If it's an Apple product, definitely get Apple Care. And that will cover a lot of bases there. But it won't stop you from having a lot of trouble having to call Apple Care about, so if you can avoid it, then do. But that being said, a lot of things are going to start not working. So, just go to see my Mercury retrograde video and definitely watch my Mars retrograde video because I go into more details about these things, which I don't have time to do now. Okay. So there's all this energy in the third house. And for the early degree placements, early degree Capricorns, so basically, let's see, early degree Capricorns are the end of December until like January 1st. You're an early degree Capricorn. The rest of you are the middle and later degree. Early degree placements, you're going to start to have quite a bit of energy in the fourth house. And for the rest of you, this is coming. So the fourth house has to do with home and family and home related things. So design work, working from home, construction, real estate, things like that. So things that like involving genealogy or things in your actual house, your household members, your blood family, and emotions that stem from childhood that can be brought back up again at this time. All those things are the fourth house. So those things are going to get very busy for you. And that's going to start for you earlier degree placements now. And that's also if you're watching for your rising sign, that's like 0 to 9 degrees. you'll start to notice that this energy of home and family is really starting to brew through multiple short and long-term placements. Some of it's been ongoing for a while. And the rest of you, this is coming. So that new moon in Aries is at 18 degrees. So pretty much all of you are going to have that happen in your third house. The very early degree placements might have that energy in the fourth house. Some of you might have both if you're an early degree placement. So new moon brings in new things. Very early degree placements, you might have that new home, new place to live, new person living with you, new, real estate project, new working from home project, something new family member, something like that. The rest of you are going to have this new energy be in your communication and your transportation. So you might wind up getting new something, even though I had told you to avoid it, because this new energy is coming there. So if you do have to buy something, like a car, like a device of some sort, try your best to do it as early in April as possible. Because as the energy gets more into the actual retrogrades, it's going to be harder. But you do have a window. If you have to do it, try to do it in the earlier times. And there's a very good chance you will have to do it, or you will want to do it, because that's what's happening. There's a pretty good transit on the 5th with Saturn and the Sun. But right after that, there's a challenging aspect with the Sun and Pluto. So those first couple of days of April, and then around April 12th, there's another little window. So I don't know what's going to happen there for you, but there's definitely a lot of busyness in your chart. As far as the full moon goes, the full moon is at 2 degrees of Scorpio. Most of you are going to have that experience in your house of work. Full moons bring, and this is April 21st or 22nd, depending on where you are. Most of you are going to experience that fullness involving something with your work, career, life purpose, or father, authority figures, something like that. Sometimes this comes in the form of drama. Sometimes it comes in the form of unwelcome drama. So that could happen. An office place problem, something up with your dad, something like that. But sometimes it can be something wonderful. Maybe there's a wonderful experience. You have a visit with your father or some person who's been an authority figure or someone you looked up to. You have a meeting with them or you get to see them, and it's wonderfully emotional in a positive way. Full moons sometimes have very positive experiences, not just teary, dramatic ones that are negative. All of that could happen. You also could get recognition with your work. So that's exciting. If you've been working on something, some things might come through for you. And that's an important point to note about Mars retrograde. If you put things in motion in the past and they start coming in for you when Mars is in retrograde, if you can avoid committing to something, that would be better, but you don't have to block something that's trying to come in. It rules launching and initiating. It doesn't rule doing everything. So then along with that full moon, Venus is conjunct Uranus, and this can bring recklessness and impulsiveness having to do with money and love and beauty. So if you want to cut your hair off around that time, I don't advise that you do it, partly because Mars rules metal, including scissors, including barbers. You're more likely to not be happy with the results and to regret that you did it. The same thing with spending money. It's not a good time to spend a bunch of money. And it's not a good time to move deep into a romantic situation that might not turn out the way you think it will. So then on April 28th, we have Mercury going retrograde, and that's through May 21st. Now, one other note about the Venus and Uranus, it doesn't always have to be a bad or negative thing. The reason why I give you the caution is because of Mars and Mercury being retrograde. If Venus were going to be conjunct Uranus, and I can remember a couple of these as I noted the energy as they've gone by in the past, it can be something really cool and really exciting and really awesome and really temporary usually. But if the energy isn't retrograde with Mars and Mercury when that's happening, the odds that there'll be repercussions from it are smaller. You see, it's only because those planets are retrograde at the same time as that aspect, the same time as the full moon, that it makes me a little bit more concerned and want to put a little bit more caution in. But some of you are going to have a wonderful experience from this. Money will come out of nowhere, you know, something romantic will happen and it will be positive and there won't be negative repercussions, you know, but I just wanted to let you know so you can head off any potential problems. So I can't see what's going on in your individual chart. If you'd like some assistance with that, you can go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. You can see my blog. I'm adding new things to my blog all the time. I write about astrology and health and all kinds of other things. And definitely, if you're interested in creating successful online business, you can check out more about my course, Enrolling Now. And definitely sign up for my free email newsletter. I'm going to be starting this wonderful series of interviews that only my VIP email group will get access to. And maybe you'll find them fun and interesting. It's my first time doing it, and I am launching it in the time I'm telling you to do it. But I'm also recording this in the time I'm telling you to do it, and this is for the time when that window is passed already. So in any case, I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.